A truly incredible story about the 1973 1-cent coin, a Lincoln penny that has stunned collectors and enthusiasts by reaching an unbelievable value of up to $8 million due to its rare errors, fascinating mistakes, and the various possibilities that make it so valuable. And as we unfold this story, you'll discover why such a tiny coin that many people would simply toss into a jar or pocket change can hold immense historical, cultural, and monetary value, because this is not just about a piece of copper but about history, minting technology, imperfections that create uniqueness, and the collector's passion that drives values to staggering heights. And as you listen, you will find yourself captivated by how a simple coin from 1973 minted at the Denver facility with the D. Mint mark has gone from being an ordinary piece of money worth only 1 cent to a record-shattering collectible worth millions. And the journey begins with understanding the background of Lincoln pennies themselves, which started in 1909 to honor President Abraham Lincoln's centennial birthday, designed by Victor David Brenner, and over the decades these coins became iconic in American history. But as production continued into the 1970s, certain errors slipped through the minting process, and some of these rare flaws turned otherwise common pennies into treasures. And among them, the 1973 D penny has gained extraordinary fame because of the way it combines minting anomalies with scarcity, demand, and collector frenzy. And when we talk about errors, we must understand how coins are struck, because the US Mint uses dies, planchets, and striking presses to create billions of coins each year. And in that massive production, mistakes happen. Sometimes dies crack or clash, sometimes planchets are clipped or misaligned, sometimes doubling occurs during striking, sometimes improper alloy mixes happen. And these accidents create rare varieties that collectors seek out, and the 1973 D penny is known to feature a range of these possible errors, making it a standout, with examples that have die doubling on the obverse where Lincoln's profile, or the inscriptions like, "In God We Trust, Liberty," or the date, 1973, show extra impressions. And this doubling is highly collectible because it results from the die itself being misprepared or struck more than once. And some 1973 D pennies also show repunched mintmarks where the D was struck into the die more than once at slightly different angles, leading to a shadow effect that makes the mintmark appear doubled or tripled, which for specialists is a dream find. And other error varieties include off-center strikes where part of the design is missing because the planchet was not centered during striking, creating dramatic visuals where Lincoln's head may be shifted to the side with blank space on the coin. And such off-center strikes, depending on the degree, can add immense premium value, especially when the date remains visible, because collectors want identifiable errors. And then we have broad strikes, where the collar that usually holds the coin in place during striking malfunctions, causing the coin to spread out larger than usual with distorted edges, again increasing desirability. And let's not forget die cracks, cuds, and laminations, where flaws in the die or the metal cause raised lines, missing chunks of design, or peeling layers of metal, all of which add uniqueness and collector appeal. And another fascinating element about the 1973 D penny is the ongoing speculation about transitional errors, because in 1973 the coins were still mostly copper, with 95% copper and 5% zinc. But just a decade later in 1982 the composition changed to copper-plated zinc. And some collectors believe experimental planchets, or wrong planchets, may have been tested in earlier years, meaning there could be a 1973 D penny struck on the wrong metal, like a 1972 planchet or a foreign coin planchet, and such a discovery would skyrocket the value. And this is part of what fuels the excitement in the community, the idea that hidden in circulation, old jars, estate sales, or coin rolls, there could be one of these era 1973 D pennies that could transform someone into a millionaire. And stories have circulated of examples sold at high-profile auctions for astronomical sums. And while not every 1973 D penny is worth millions, those with the rarest combinations of errors and pristine condition have fetched jaw-dropping prices, because condition plays a critical role too, and grading by professional services like PCGS or NGC can elevate a coin's value significantly, with mint state or proof-like examples commanding the most attention. And in the case of the $8 million coin, We are talking about a specimen that combined multiple striking errors with impeccable preservation, creating a once-in-a-lifetime find, and the demand is further fueled by collectors who seek to complete Lincoln cent era collections, because owning a coin like this not only represents history but also gives status in the collecting world, and the psychology of rarity is important too, since people place immense value on items that are one of a kind or nearly impossible to replicate, and the 1973 penny hits all the right notes in that regard, being common in general circulation but extremely rare with its errors. Which makes the hunt thrilling, because millions of 1973 pennies were struck, but only a handful contain these dramatic mistakes, making them needles in a haystack, and this scarcity is what creates the dramatic rise in value. And think about the cultural significance too, because pennies are often overlooked as nearly worthless today, with many people not even bothering to pick them up off the ground, yet here we are talking about one single penny that reached $8 million. Turning the narrative upside down, and reminding us that even the smallest things can carry immense worth if we know where to look, and this inspires people to examine their own change, to check their piggy banks, to visit coin shops and flea markets, because the possibility of finding one of these treasures is real, and beyond the financial aspect there is the joy of discovery, the feeling of connecting with history, holding in your hand something that tells a story of the minting process, the people who used it decades ago, and the chance mishaps that made it extraordinary. And when you look closely at the 1973 penny, you begin to appreciate the artistry of coinage too, because every detail from Lincoln's hair to the lettering on the reverse with the Lincoln Memorial shows craftsmanship, and when that craftsmanship is altered unintentionally by errors, it creates a conversation piece, something to marvel at, and the collector's market thrives on these stories. With auction houses highlighting dramatic errors, media covering record sales, and enthusiasts sharing their finds online, creating a community that is constantly buzzing with excitement, and in that environment, the legend of the $8,001,973 penny continues to grow, becoming almost mythical, a coin that represents the pinnacle of era collecting, and this leads us to imagine what other eras might exist undiscovered. Perhaps struck on silver planchets left over from other denominations, perhaps double denomination strikes where a penny is struck over a dime, perhaps unique die clashes that create ghostly images, all of which are possibilities in the chaotic environment of mass coin production, and these possibilities keep collectors motivated, because the U.S. Mint has produced billions of coins and hidden among them are anomalies waiting to be discovered, and the story of the 1973 penny is a perfect example of how patience, knowledge, and a bit of luck can lead to unimaginable rewards, and as you continue to explore coin collecting, you realize it's not just about money, but about curiosity, history, and the thrill of uncovering the rare, and that's why the 1973 penny worth $8 million is not just a financial headline but a symbol of the deeper value that lies hidden in everyday objects, and when people hear about it, they start looking at pennies differently, no longer as worthless copper discs but as potential treasures, and that shift in perspective is powerful, because it invites us to pay attention, to appreciate detail, and to recognize that sometimes greatness hides in plain sight. And so as we wrap this exploration of the 1973 1 cent, we leave you with the idea that the next great discovery could be in your pocket right now, waiting to be noticed, waiting to change your life. And that is the magic of numismatics, a field where history, error, rarity, and human fascination collide to create stories that captivate generations. And this story of the $8 million penny will continue to inspire collectors, enthusiasts, and everyday people to check their change, to wonder about the past, and to dream about the possibilities, because after all, who would have thought that a single 1973 penny could command such value? And who knows what treasures still lie undiscovered among the coins we take for granted every single day. Welcome back to another thrilling journey into the world of rare coins and hidden treasures that turn everyday change into fortunes, and today we continue with the story of another astonishing find, the 1975 1-cent coin that has shocked the numismatic world by reaching values of up to $5 million because of the remarkable errors, minting mistakes, and unique possibilities that make it so incredibly valuable. And while most people would see a 1975 penny and dismiss it as ordinary, pocket change worth no more than 1 cent, collectors and experts know that there are rare specimens from this year that defy expectations. And once again, this story shows us how history, chance, and minting anomalies combine to create unimaginable wealth from something so small. Because the 1975 Lincoln cent belongs to the iconic series first introduced in 1909. Featuring Abraham Lincoln on the obverse designed by Victor David Brenner, and the Lincoln Memorial reverse that had been in use since 1959, and by the mid-1970s billions of these coins were being produced annually at the Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco mints. Yet hidden in this ocean of copper coins are those rare errors and anomalies that transform a simple penny into a treasure worth millions. And when we examine the 1975 1 cent, we find that several error types are responsible for its legendary value, starting with doubled die obverse varieties where the inscriptions, "In God We Trust, Liberty," and the date, 1975, appear with extra thickness, shadows, or clear doubling visible to the naked eye. And these doubled dies are not simple machine doubling but true hub doubling, meaning they originated at the die creation process, making them permanent and highly collectible. And the most dramatic examples are extremely rare, with only a handful known, instantly commanding immense premiums. And then we encounter repunched mintmarks, especially on Denver minted examples where the D was struck into the die more than once at slightly different angles, creating a doubled or even tripled mintmark that collectors chase after. And when such a coin is found in mint state condition with full luster, its value climbs sharply. And in some cases these pennies are struck off-center, with dramatic blank crescent areas and misaligned designs, which only increases rarity, especially if the date remains intact. Because collectors insist on being able to see the date and mintmark to prove authenticity. And we also find broad strikes and multiple strikes, where the coin spreads abnormally or gets struck twice in the press, creating ghostly overlapping images. And these errors are not only fascinating but one of a kind, which fuels collector demand. And one of the most exciting theories about the 1975 penny's value involves transitional and wrong planchet strikes. Because the coin's composition at the time was still 95% copper and 5% zinc, but experimental planchets may have been used, leading to rumors of 1975 cents struck on foreign coin planchets or on dime stock, creating thinner or lighter pennies that are extremely rare. And if such coins were confirmed, they would explain why a single 1975 cent could reach auction prices of $5 million. Because era collectors love coins that challenge the norm. And let's not forget die cracks, cuds, laminations, and strike-through errors. Where the die breaks leave raised ridges, chunks of design vanish, metal layers peel, or foreign objects like cloth or wire get struck into the coin, making each example unique. And all of these error varieties contribute to the mystique of the 1975 penny. But value also depends heavily on condition, with coins graded by PCGS or NGC at mint state or proof-like condition fetching the highest sums. And the $5 million example was reported to combine multiple rare errors with pristine preservation, making it one of the greatest Lincoln cent rarities ever. And the demand is also driven by the psychology of rarity. Because even though billions of 1975 pennies exist, the fact that only a tiny handful of error varieties have survived makes them incredibly desirable. And this creates a frenzy at auctions where wealthy collectors compete for ownership, pushing values to astronomical levels. And what fascinates the public even more is that these coins still occasionally appear in circulation, hidden in rolls or old coin jars, meaning the chance to stumble across one is real. And that dream of turning 1 cent into millions is what keeps the excitement alive. And beyond financial worth, the 1975 penny represents history too, because coins are artifacts of their time, carrying the legacy of American culture, minting technology, and everyday life. And when errors transform them into rarities, they become not just money but pieces of art and history combined. And this is why collectors devote entire lifetimes to the hunt, because owning a coin like the 1975 1 cent, worth $5 million, is not just about wealth but about pride, status, and a deep connection to history. And the more people learn about these treasures, the more they begin to check their change, to look at pennies differently, no longer as worthless copper but as potential fortunes. And that shift in perspective is magical, because it brings history into the hands of ordinary people, and makes us realize that greatness can hide in the smallest details. And as the legend of the 1975 penny grows, so too does the passion of those who seek it, knowing that somewhere out there another undiscovered example may be waiting to change someone's life forever. And this is what makes the story of the 1975 1 cent so incredible, a reminder that errors, mistakes, and possibilities in the minting process can transform the most ordinary of objects into treasures worth millions. And that the thrill of discovery continues to inspire, captivate, and reward those who dare to look closely at the coins in their pocket. And today we continue our journey with the fascinating story of the 1978 1 cent coin, a Lincoln penny that has stunned the numismatic world by reaching values of up to $4 million because of the extraordinary mistakes, rare minting errors, and unique possibilities that make it so incredibly valuable. And when you first think of a 1978 penny struck at the Denver Mint, you might imagine it to be completely ordinary because billions were produced, and most circulated endlessly in pockets, wallets, and change jars. But hidden among those billions are the rare anomalies that elevate a simple 1 cent coin into a collector's dream worth millions. And this is the magic of numismatics, because it teaches us that even the smallest overlooked items may hold unimaginable worth. And the 1978 penny is a perfect example of how minting imperfections can turn copper into treasure. So let us explore exactly why this coin has commanded such attention and astronomical prices. And the first thing collectors look at are double die varieties, because the 1978 penny has known double die errors where the inscriptions, "In God We Trust, Liberty," and the date, 1978, appear with shadow-like doubling or extra thickness caused during the hubbing process. And dramatic examples of this doubling are highly scarce and extremely collectible, instantly raising the coin's value from a cent to thousands and even millions when combined with pristine condition, and alongside doubled dies. We also encounter repunched mintmarks on Denver issues, where the D was impressed into the die multiple times at slightly different angles, creating visible doubling or tripling, which collectors prize. And then there are off-center strikes where the coin design is misaligned on the planchet, leaving blank crescent-shaped areas with parts of Lincoln's profile shifted awkwardly. And the more dramatic the off-center error while still keeping the date visible, the higher the value climbs. And dramatic 50% off-center strikes of 1978 pennies are legendary among error enthusiasts. And we also must consider broad strikes and multiple strikes, where the coin was either not confined by its collar during striking, causing it to spread larger than normal, or struck more than once creating overlapping ghost images, both of which are rare and desirable. And die clashes also appear on some 1978 cents, where the obverse and reverse dies strike each other without a planchet between them, leaving faint impressions of the Lincoln memorial on the obverse or Lincoln's profile on the reverse, creating eerie and collectible anomalies. And another fascinating error possibility that adds enormous value is transitional or wrong planchet strikes, because while 1978 cents were still made of 95% copper and 5% zinc, there is always the chance that an experimental or foreign coin planchet was used, leading to a penny struck on dime stock, nickel stock, or even aluminum test planchets, and such a discovery would make a 1978 cent worth millions instantly. And then there are die cracks, cuds, laminations, and strike-through errors, where imperfections in the die or debris in the striking press create raised lines, missing chunks of design, peeling metal, or impressions of foreign objects embedded into the coin's surface. And these unique features are valued because no two are exactly alike, making each coin a one-of-a-kind collectible, and condition once again plays a critical role, because the grading process by professional services such as PCGS or NGC separates ordinary circulated examples from mint-state gems with full red luster that can sell for astronomical sums. And the $4,001,978 D penny was reported to be in pristine condition, showcasing one of the most dramatic error combinations ever documented, which explains why it broke records and captured the imagination of collectors worldwide. And when you combine rarity, uniqueness, and condition, you create the perfect storm for numismatic value, Because even though the Denver Mint produced hundreds of millions of 1978 pennies, only a handful with these extraordinary characteristics exist, making them the holy grail of Lincoln cent collecting. And this is where the psychology of rarity drives demand, because collectors are willing to pay anything to own something no one else has. And the thrill of competition at auctions pushes prices higher, and the mere possibility that another one of these treasures may be hiding in an overlooked collection, a roll of coins, or even everyday pocket change keeps the hunt alive, fueling excitement in the hobby. And beyond financial worth, the 1978 D penny also carries historical weight, because it represents the last years before the U.S. Mint began experimenting more heavily with composition changes leading up to the switch in 1982 to copper-plated zinc, and so the 1978 penny is tied to the end of an era of solid copper coins, which adds even more to its nostalgic and collectible appeal. And when eras are layered onto that context, the value and historical intrigue multiply. And for collectors, owning such a piece is not only about wealth but about pride, status, and a tangible connection to American history. And that is why stories of coins like the 1978 D penny worth $4 million continue to inspire, excite, and motivate both seasoned collectors and newcomers, reminding us that treasures may lie hidden in plain sight, and that even the smallest overlooked coin has the potential to change lives. Because numismatics is not just about money, it is about discovery, passion, history, and the thrill of finding the extraordinary in the ordinary. And as the legend of the 1978 D 1 cent grows, it will continue to captivate the imaginations of people around the world, urging them to look more closely at the change in their pockets. Because the next great discovery could be waiting in your hands right now. Next, turn into extraordinary treasures, and today we continue with the remarkable story of another Lincoln cent that has left collectors stunned, the 1979 1-cent coin. A simple penny in appearance, yet a specimen of it has reached an astonishing value of $3.5 million because of its incredible minting errors, unique mistakes, and the fascinating possibilities that make it so valuable. And this is where the magic of coin collecting shines brightest, because the 1979 penny belongs to a decade when billions of coins were struck at the Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco mints, most of them ordinary and used every day in shops, buses, and savings jars. Yet among those billions lie a tiny handful of era coins that defy the norm, coins so rare and extraordinary that they elevate themselves far beyond face value into the realm of priceless collectibles. And the 1979 penny is a perfect example, because when struck under unusual conditions it became a treasure. And what makes it worth up to $3.5 million is a combination of rare doubling, off-metal strikes, and other anomalies that only the luckiest collector might stumble upon. And to understand the value of this coin, we must look at the minting errors that can occur, starting with double die errors, one of the most famous and sought after in all numismatics, where design elements such as "In God We Trust, Liberty," and the date 1979 can appear doubled, with thick shadow-like impressions visible, and in rare cases the doubling is dramatic and highly collectible, with only a handful known, and when combined with pristine condition, the value skyrockets. And another error that collectors love on the 1979 cent is repunched mintmarks, especially on Denver or San Francisco minted examples, where the D or S appears doubled, tripled, or misaligned because the mintmark was punched multiple times into the die. And such varieties are scarce and bring high premiums. And then there are the spectacular off-center strikes where the planchet was not properly seated in the press, resulting in a coin with part of Lincoln's portrait shifted dramatically and a blank crescent of copper on one side. And these are highly desirable when the date remains intact, because they are both visually stunning and identifiable. And let's not forget broad strikes, double strikes, and die clashes, where coins can appear distorted, struck twice, or show ghost-like images of the reverse on the obverse. And these unusual features excite collectors because each example is unique. And then comes one of the most thrilling possibilities with the 1979 penny, off-metal or wrong planchet strikes, because by the late 1970s the U.S. Mint was experimenting with planchet compositions in preparation for future changes. And it is possible that a 1979 cent was struck on a transitional or foreign coin planchet, making it lighter, thinner, or of unusual metal content, and such a coin would be an absolute rarity worth millions, and reports of such pieces have fueled the legend of the 1979 cent valued at $3.5 million, and alongside this are die breaks, cuds, and laminations, where flaws in the die or planchet create raised lines, missing chunks, or peeling layers of metal, all of which add to the uniqueness of the coin, and in numismatics uniqueness is value. Because collectors crave coins that no one else owns, and when we factor in condition, the importance of grading becomes clear, because a coin certified by PCGS or NGC at a high mint state level with full red luster can multiply its value many times over, and the record-breaking 1979 penny that reached $3.5 million was reportedly a pristine specimen with one of the most dramatic and desirable error combinations known, making it one of the crown jewels of Lincoln cent collecting. And this shows us once again how rarity, error, and condition combine to create astronomical value, because while billions of 1979 pennies were produced, only a handful possessed these extraordinary features, and this extreme scarcity makes them the holy grail for collectors, and the psychology of collecting plays a role here too, because people place immense value on what is rare and unique, and the idea that a single cent could be worth millions is both shocking and irresistible, fueling competition at auctions and driving prices higher, and this is why collectors constantly search rolls of coins, jars of change, and old collections hoping to uncover one of these legendary pieces. And beyond the monetary value, the 1979 penny carries historical weight as well, representing a time in America when inflation was rising, the cost of minting coins was being reconsidered, and technological advancements were being introduced at the mint, and these historical contexts add another layer of intrigue. Because a coin is never just a piece of metal but a snapshot of its era, and when errors occur they capture a unique story within that snapshot, and owning such a coin connects you directly to that moment in time. And what makes the 1979 penny even more fascinating is that despite being common in general circulation, its rare errors turn it into an artifact of immense significance, reminding us that even the smallest, most overlooked items can hide treasures. And this encourages everyone to look more closely at their coins, to examine them under magnification, to learn about varieties and minting processes, because knowledge is what turns a casual glance into a life-changing discovery, and the legend of the 1979 penny worth $3.5 million continues to inspire both seasoned collectors and beginners, driving the passion for numismatics forward. And with every story like this, more people are drawn into the hunt, creating a community of enthusiasts who share discoveries, trade coins, and celebrate the thrill of finding something extraordinary. And so the story of the 1979 penny stands as yet another shining example of how minting errors, mistakes, and possibilities can transform the ordinary into the extraordinary, reminding us that fortune may be hiding in plain sight in the most unexpected places, and that a simple coin from 1979 could be the key to unimaginable wealth and historical connection all at once.